pattern has emerged, and since round 4, David and Morales have swapped wins back and forth. But David's poor showing at Road America has meant that Morales now regains the championship lead. The scant 5 points between them leaves no room for error. So James will certainly be hoping he can carry on the pattern, at least for this round, and get back on the top step. We'll see if he can, as well as we get ready to watch round 9 of the PRL GT4 Clubsport series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Ossian Puhaka. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Barcelona will be seeing slightly faster cars soon in the shape of Formula One in the real world, but these little GT4s should put on a good show. Let's head down to our track guide to learn a little bit more about this place. Welcome to Circuit de Barcelona. The home of the Spanish Grand Prix for nearly 30 years, it's easy to forget that this is a relatively recently built track in Europe. It's known for its long, sweeping corners and hosts the highest level of open-wheel and motorcycle racing. Placing an emphasis on a good aerodynamic setup with high downforce cars, it's often overlooked that it offers plenty of overtaking for lower-tier racing as well. In fact, most don't take into account that this adaptable track has 5 different layouts to choose from. These range from the nearly 3-mile-long Grand Prix version to the minuscule 1-mile club circuit. Because of the pit straight being the longest acceleration zone, Elf is the most likely spot for drivers to get a pass done. After that, your next hope might be into Lakaja, which, depending on which layout you use, could be a sharpened set of 2 turns or one long hairpin with an opening radius. In the early 2000s, a chicane was added close to the end of the lap, but the old Europe car corner can still be run. The Spanish fans have some gorgeous views from the many hills dotted along the track. And with the international fame this place has built over time, it's no wonder they're almost always full come race day. Well, while being a pretty well-known circuit worldwide, it seems, Ozzy, that this place is sometimes a little bit maligned by fans. But it certainly is a tough circuit, I'll give it that.
Yeah, Joe, I mean, it has that reputation because in Formula One, where most people know this track from, it's used a lot in testing and was used even more back in the olden days when testing was unlimited. It's 4.6 kilometers long, 2.8 miles. And some people think of it as boring as a result because, frankly, when you know the circuit by the back of your hand, it's hard to make a difference. It's hard to find that edge over one another. But here on iRacing, and especially with these cars, the long main straight and the twisting technical nature of it should make for some excellent racing. And hey, it's not as bad as they make it out to be.
Yeah, we've seen some great races here in the past here on the channel. But before we get to the racing, let's remind you that the GT4 Club Sport Series is brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. Today's broadcast is also brought to you by Sim Racing Canada. Pay less, get more with Sim Racing Canada's custom aluminum rig build for everyone, from the starters to the pros. Your vision, our solution. Find out more at simracingcanada.com. Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. So I mentioned it a little bit in the intro about the championship, the Drivers' Championship, shifting around now with the last round. And Morales moves himself up to the top spot with James David falling down into second, but he's only back by 5. So now things get interesting from here to the end of the season. Palacio a little ways back, kind of on his own, which is really how his racing has been all season. Hasn't had many people to fight with and has just been racking up podiums, but can't catch the top 2. Daly and Tremblay round out your top 5. Again, a little bit distance from one another, including Julio Palacio. Though they are not locked in, it's going to take some major events for them to switch around from here to the end of the season. We also have the Teams Championship. Ozzy, why don't you run us down that?
Well, Davidson Motorsports Porsche still in the lead of that one, but only by 9 points. So Davidson Motorsports Porsche with James David and Orno Chenet is being chased by team of Tremblay, Espinosa, and Palacio. In P number 3, it's SRM Green, Ninja Trader in fourth, and We Racing in fifth place of the team championship. And look at the top two, just 9 points between them. Isn't that close or something?
Yeah, it seems like it's really mimicking what we're seeing at the top of the driver's sheet as well. Now, let's go down how exactly this race will unfold, at least in terms of the framework of it. We are in round 9 out of 10. So this is the penultimate round. This is probably where David does need to strike back. The two different makes of cars they can choose from are both GT4 class, BMW and a Porsche. And they have 45 minutes to run this race. It is an open setup, but you can expect one pit stop because they've limited the fuel cells compared to what the real cars are able to run. And they do have some penalties with a lot of the paved runoff and room that you have around here. It could be easy to start racking those up and wind up with a drive-through or even get disqualified. Now, you saw the bonus points there at the bottom. Those will likely come into play with how tight things are. We'll talk a little bit about how they get those in a moment. In the meantime, make sure you try and advertise with us if you're trying to get attention for your company, because GSRC offers a wealth of options to help you get your branding seen on a platform with over 1 million monthly impressions. If your organization is looking for a global audience to advertise with, look no further than GSRC. Follow the link in the description below to learn more. Right now, David does have the provisional pole after taking one lap, and I think he's just about to do one more. Yes, indeed, goes half a second quicker, which was critical because the driver in front of him went faster, Julio Palacio as well. But it's, wow, it's actually 7/10 between David and Palacio right now. So I'm trying to find, Ozzy, do you see where Morales is here?
Morales. He's in 16th position right now. Diego Morales, car number 22. He's in fact on track right now, just coming to the back straight, if I'm not mistaken much. And yeah, he hasn't had the best of qualifying efforts so far, but still got 8.5 minutes left, and that's not the back straight. That's that's Seat where he's coming to right now. So getting my Catalonian knowledge in order. But yeah, he's not the best of qualifying so far, but he still has time to improve. Certainly, though, a bit of a surprise to not see him start off with an absolute burner of lap.
Yeah, we'll certainly want to hope that he doesn't get held up by traffic out here. Granted, it's not the biggest of fields, as I believe we've got 24 cars who have signed up so far tonight. It comes down what effectively works as the backstretch here, now into La Caija. And this is the Grand Prix version. This is what the F1 cars run, so it's the sharper version of that hairpin. It weaves its way into Banque Sabadell, and of course, probably one of the less loved portions of this track, into the final chicane that they added a little more than a decade ago.
Yeah, sorry, I just threw up in my mouth a little. So it's I can understand why they did it. I can totally understand it because, as you can see, it's very tight. It's a very technical section now. It used to be a high-speed flowing sector, reminding me a lot about Brands Hatch in those fast right-handers. Now it's a tighter sector, but what it does is it creates an overtaking opportunity onto the main straight with high downforce cars because it's much easier to follow through the final chicane rather than two high-speed corners.
Now we're on Byron Daly as he comes down to the timing line, which is quite early on the straightaway. He goes quickest yet, 57.4, but it looks like it does not improve his position. He stays in 14th with a ways to make up to those ahead of him. Let's see if we got any of our front runners coming close to the line. Actually, James David is heading around New Holland. He still holds the pole at a 54.5. Looks like he's on an outlap, though, because that timer was slow, and indeed, that one did not count. So he gets going on another hot lap with a couple more minutes to try and improve as we now switch to Matt Odell, who has yet to set a time. And I guess I should clarify, Matt Odell, not Matt Odell. I think that's not... oh, no, it is. There is an apostrophe in there. Excuse me. It just isn't showing up on our screen.
Yeah, do you remember the Irish Formula One driver a couple of years ago, Tim O'Glock?
I like that. I'm sure he's heard that joke many a time, though.
Oh yes.
Cristelli now down and across, and he does not improve. So check out Day. Raymond has just this last chicane to go, the RACC chicane, and into New Holland. He sits in third and is less than a tenth back from Palacio, so he could put himself onto the front row if that counted. He was way off the course there. Not sure if it was within bounds. If it wasn't, nope, it was not. That was discounted. Oh, and he gets bumped down to fourth because guess who finally found some pace? Morales on the front row.
Yeah, Morales finally coming to form here. Diego Morales with a 154.6, only 1.5 tenths away from James David, who is on a warpath right now. He wants to improve, and it's about time he comes awake in this race too. As we're watching these guys come across the line and try to improve their times, it's pretty close up front. And Joe, it's been the same story in qualifying as it has been all season. The top two separated from rest of the pack, but those guys look tight. And more importantly, Palacio isn't all by his lonesome in P number 3 anymore.
Yeah, Raymond Day looks like he's going to give him a run for his money if his race pace matches up to that qualifying pace. Unless things change here in the final 4 minutes. We're still waiting on about 3 cars to set times, but I don't see Philippe Mignon or Hotham on the track. It does look like they're in the qualifying session, in the race session right now, but they, for whatever reason, have not elected to come out to set any times. Matt Odell is indeed trying to get his first time down. Here you see the Canadian, a little bit of a bobble out of New Holland. First two didn't count. This one doesn't count either, so Matt's running out of time here. This could get a little bit tight for him. Now, one thing that I did notice is we saw, I think it was Daly, ducking into pit lane. They don't have to do that here in qualifying. They can just press escape and have the car towed. So I wonder if he's practicing with that pit entry, which I can't imagine it's just flat out in there, is it? Or can you just put your foot to the floor coming through there?
Yeah, I mean, you can come flat out to the pit entry. Oh, and meanwhile, we have a new pole sitter, and that's Diego Morales with a 154.3. It's not quite flat, it's quite tight. It's easy to do David Coulthard here on pit entry, but yeah, Joe, Diego Morales now. We talked about how he struggled early on in the qualifying, no struggles anymore. And now the ball's in David's court. Can he beat the man called Diego, who has become the Goliath?
He's coming around to see if he can do it right now because James David is into the last chicane. 2/10 to make up. That's actually a decent margin, even though it is a little bit of a longer lap around here. So the Canadian swings it around out of the final corner, very wide. Is he going to have this one discounted? It'll have a couple more tries. Yes, indeed. That one gets a blank lap time for him. Oh, boy. He's trying. You can not say that he's resting on his laurels with this second place, that's for sure.
No. He wants that pole position, absolutely. And he's right now, I believe, on his third flying lap. Yes, No, it's even more than that. He's been out there for a while, actually. I wonder how much more fuel he has in that car. Because, as said, he has been out there for quite a while. And usually in qualifying, granted, these tires don't go off immediately, but they will start going off. So it's not like you can just put 15 minutes of fuel into the car and go at it. No, you need to be a little bit more strategic about it. And usually, Joe, it's roughly 2 stints per qualifying session. So you're not using that much fuel. But James David certainly feeling the pressure with Morales taking the pole here.
That's Morales on screen ahead of him. Our 5th place in the points goes quicker. Tremblay improves his time, but he's still stuck down in 8th. What about Morales? He does go faster yet again, a 54.3 that time, but it is very, very tight. Actually, no, it was the same time down to the 1,000th of his previous. Wow.
It was. We've seen on the Iberian Peninsula, we've seen a Formula 1 dead heat between 3 drivers in Jerez. can we see Diego Morales now do three exactly the same times here at Barcelona? I highly doubt it, but that's some clockwork precision by Diego there, and certainly showing off that the first one, it wasn't no fluke.
We've seen drivers get the same time between each other, but not the same driver back to backs at the fastest lap like that. As James David tries one more, and it's not quicker, even though this one counted. Now he is on the last chance that he has to try and improve his time. We switch over to Cochran instead.
Yeah, I'll be keeping my eyes peeled on David. You guys watch the other drivers come across the line in case they can improve. Palacio 54.8, he's in P number 3, so he has improved as well, taking a bit of a gap between himself and Janae. They in 5th place still, and those guys are rather close together. Tremblay here, actually, next one coming across the line. Joe, how does it look for the BMW driver?
Well, right now it's looking decent. At least I expect so, because he's got Morales still chasing, and he doesn't look significantly closer, though. He's going to be the first one to take the checkered flag. So as Jean-Marc Tremblay comes out of New Holland, he's trying to improve on that 55.7 that he did last time by. What's it going to be? Can he go higher than 8th? He does go faster. It's a 55.6, and he gets up to 7th. Following him, it's Morales, and he's not going to do it 3 times in a row, but it was awful close. He was only 300ths off of his previous lap time.
That's insane when you
Might
come
as
to
well
think
count.
of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and meanwhile, we're watching these guys, and now I think that's Kenny Rodriguez, yeah, on the final chicane. He's trying to navigate that well and does it too. A couple of drivers opting to take the title line around her, meaning they will go up on 2 wheels. And Rodriguez instead just betting it all on the final corner. Can he find improvement? Can Rodriguez?
Nope,
had
he does
a decent
not.
qualifying.
Ted Lowendick wrecks out on the final corner.
And David,
And in the meantime, yep, James David's going to abandon his last lap. So he doesn't think he can take that pole away. The battle peters out because I don't think we have anybody who looks to be close enough that could challenge him. We've just got Cochran, Margula, Kruemans, and that's it. Just those last 3 drivers.
well, I don't know. Margula has a chance here. He decides to finish this lap, and they got a bit of cloud cover on the last sector, so he could find improvement in terms of time. 54.4, he does try. 55.4 rather. He does find improvement, but not enough to gain positions.
If he stays put in P6, that's going to be the last of our field here in the qualifying. So let's go through our starting order for today. Diego Morales, he gets a bonus point for the pole. Sick of that number 3 after a while. And Arnaud Genet starts in 4th, followed by Raymond Day in the 5th position. Fyodor Margula starts in 6th. He's followed by Jean-Marc Tremblay in 7th. And then you've got Kenny Rodriguez with a great qualifying up to 8th place. Ted Lowendick will be P9, and David Cristelli rounds out your top 10.
Christopher Richards, 11th place. Spencer Semkovic starting alongside him in 12th. Mark Fall, Sean Cochrane in row number 7. Brett Barrett, Aaron Lay, row number 8. Baron Daly and Frank Roymans, row number 9. And Brian Matthews and Gary rounding out.
So there were a few like
Sean Foss, Glenn Bowen, Philip Magnan, Brian Hodham, and Matt Odell in your 25 driver field. And Joe, it's gonna be a cracker. Gonna tell you right away. I think it's gonna be another cracker of a race.
Well, we've got a couple cars that did not qualify as we take a look at the weather here. Currently 32 degrees Celsius on the track. That's 90 degrees Fahrenheit. So honestly, a little warm, but nothing outrageous, especially compared to some that we've seen here in Spain in the virtual world at sometimes on the channel. Does look like we should have all drivers gridding up because, again, I do not see anybody missing from our current session. But unusual decision from some of those drivers to decide not to qualify. This isn't typically the sort of track where
it's hard to make
you go for that sort of strategy. I certainly want to hope that
no, I almost wonder if it's been more like, you know, testing out the race setups and maybe just unable to complete a good flying lap, because this is one of the modern tracks where you can easily go a little bit too wide and just can't find the consistency to put in a good lap, and then deciding, you know what, I just want to start from the back and avoid all the mayhem. And going back to the weather briefly, if I may, 20 degrees Celsius air temp, 32 degrees track temp. It's colder on the virtual 8th of August in Spain than it was in Finland on the 8th of August. Because I was in middle of the Finland, in middle Finland, not even southern Finland, in middle Finland, and it was 27 degrees Celsius, bright and sunny, and we spent all day in a tent. That was fun.
I, sometime I'll have to pick your brain on what the differences are between the accents of middle, northern, and southern Finland, because I'm sure if it's anything like the States, there's got to be at least some variance there. But
Not
I
much.
digress.
In you digress, but in northern Finland, you just add an hard H in every other syllable of your word. Like, southern Finland, you go to sauna, and in northern Finland, you go to sauna, saukha, sauna. No, that doesn't
Can't
work,
even
but
do it yourself,
you
yeah.
get the point. You get the point. I got myself in a pickle, almost like a cucumber.
Well, hopefully we won't have drivers that are in that sort of trouble. Hopefully they'll all be smoothed down into turn one, because we'll find out soon how they're going to handle this. Might be a little bit spread apart coming through this last chicane, depending on if the drivers want to try and stay double file. So here comes the Porsche pace car. And yeah, a few of them are going to try and get a little single file here, then try and regroup back up, including our front and second row. Now they're getting through. Everybody behind them trying to catch up in time, get nice and packed up. But the green flag is out, and Diego Morales is off like a shot down the front stretch into Elf. It was a good start for David, but not so for Palacio. He's already got Genet behind him. Looking around the outside, it's getting rather single file behind them. And in fact, Genet looks like he backs out of it even before they get to the braking zone. A very timid start for the front of the field. In fact, all the way down, this is incredibly spread out.
Yeah, it was spread out from the back. There were some shenanigans on the pace lap, and as a result of that, a couple of drivers got further back than they intended. But that probably saved the field from a bit of trouble into the chicane, and as a result, they head single file onto the middle portion of lap number 1. And, well, it's calm before the storm, as they say.
It does look a little bit stormy, at least in the track, until you get those little glimpses of sky. We're off in the distance, it's certainly pretty sunny, but the cloud cover continues to hover over the surface of the track as they come through Vert now. And Morales leads the way by about half a second over David, and the same distance back to Palacio. Indeed, you only start to get a train after Genet, where he's being chased by Margula, Lowendick, Tremblay, Rodriguez, Day. It goes on for a while.
Yeah, it does go on for a fair bit, so you can really see some movement already being made. Margula deciding if he wants to defend onto the hairpin, deciding against it. Lowendick behind him, and Tremblay as well. Tremblay lost a couple of positions in the start. Lowendick gaining a couple, and then you have Genet and Margula right in front of him. So it's been a great start actually from Ted Lowendick, because he's, if I'm not seeing this wrong, he's all the way up to 6th place.
Yeah, Lowendick is indeed there in P6, trying to see if he can keep up to the back of Margula as our leaders now come onto the pit straight one more time. You talked about the good exit, and I think that David got that. He's got a very good run here coming down the front stretch, and already Morales is defending. He covers off the inside into Elf. David trying to outbrake him, but it looks like he's not able to hold it side by side.
No, he's not, and the reason for that good exit was that Morales went absolutely sideways on the final corner. He had an absolute initial D moment there, but manages to catch it and stays ahead of David for now. David trying it on the inside into turn number 3. Can he pull it off? No. Morales braking later on the outside. Is he gonna outbrake himself? No, he's not. David still side by side here, Joe.
He might have it, but he's gonna have to go the long way around Seat. Breaking deep into the corner, Morales is going to make him work for it indeed. Oh my goodness, somehow he finds the grip offline. Too wide through Vert, though, does not usually go well. I think David knows that. He finally backs out of it.
Yeah, he backs out of it looking for a better exit. Instead, onto the back straight, he may get it. Morales chance to grab the Vert there. So onto this fast right-hander, very different lines there, and a very different line from David. I don't know why David didn't take a wider line there. He ruined his exit with that one, and lets Morales lead for now, but these two guys going half a lap side by side at Barcelona. Who said this track wasn't great for racing? It's epic for racing.
And this did help Palacio run them down a little bit, but he's not quite in a position to attack at the moment. We now hop on board with Morales looking from the gearbox back at James David. I mentioned earlier, these two have been going back and forth on wins since round 4 at Mosport. Morales won there, and then it went David, then back to Morales and David, and Morales once again. Diego's trying to break that string. This one was much better coming onto the front stretch, and I don't think David's really got the attempt that he had last time.
No, and it was interesting to see on the final chicane how David just cut the left side of the curb more aggressively than Morales. And look out for that, because these guys can damage these cars very easily if you cut the curb too much. We have seen how sensitive they are to damage earlier on, especially body contact, but also curb contact. So he needs to keep an eye out for that.
Half an eye on this myself, and also watching Lowendick, Tremblay, Rodriguez, and Day. We're in a nice little fight for P6. You mentioned it earlier. Ooh, actually, that almost came to a head just now, because Rodriguez nearly ran into Jean-Marc Tremblay's bumper. Had to take some evasive action. There you see him on screen. That's being led by Lowendick in the number 172 BMW.
Yeah, Lowendick's heading this a little bit of a train there. He's lost ground to Margula and Genet, and now he has to prove that he belongs in this position he gained on lap 1. Tremblay, Rodriguez, and Day right behind him, and Kenny Rodriguez, I know it's early, knocking on wood here, but he's having another great race, and here he tries an overtake to Tremblay around the outside under the back straight. They are teammates. Can he pull it off? It's gonna be tight.
Oh no!
Oh no! That's far. And that was Raymond Day coming in from nowhere, and no other explanation than him missing the braking point completely.
It almost looks like he got distracted watching the fight in front of him and then forgot to watch out for his own marker. Yeah, he just completely blows that, and unfortunately, it seems that Tremblay came out the worse for it with a hard hit to the back and then slams into the Armco. Both of those drivers are still running at least. The question is how much speed is left in those machines. Oh, and we got to go back to the leaders. Sorry. It looks like Morales. Oh, no! David gets into another tussle, and he can get into Morales as well. That is Palacio, who contacted him. Parts flying, and still he gets turned around. Morales finds himself off the track. He couldn't hold on to it. Palacio now has the lead. Genet into second, and Margula to third. What a development.
Oh, and David Slow run the outside as we go to the replay as well. So I think David has to retire. That's a little bit too far away, but that was a very clumsy contact. And it all got started, I believe, it was James David switching his lanes under the braking zones, and you do that. Yeah, and here we go. You can see him getting a run, and he changes his lanes right into the path of Julio Palacio. And I'm sorry, that's not Julio's fault in any way, shape, or form. That's just James David forgetting to check his mirrors, and it can happen so easily when you're in a fight like that.
My goodness. And is that David? Yeah, that is David on screen right there. He's trying to limp it back. Remember, they have a spare car, so he can try to recover here, but it's going to be similar to what we saw at Road America, where he can only hope for so much. Where is Morales? Morales is still himself.
Yeah, he's limping a lot. He's rear wing attacking, and he's got damage on his rear end. We know how significant that can be, and he doesn't look like a happy camper at all. I wonder if he's coming into the pit lane. Yeah, he has to. He has no traction in his rear either. So he's just trying to make it through the last sector, going very wide here. Gonna be caught up by Richards, Semkovic, and Barrett as well. So I'd be very surprised to not see him turn into the lane right here. No, he's keeping going. He's keeping going for some reason, and he's gonna lose a lot of time here. And that means Palacio, Genet, Margula, and Lowendick are your leading guarded, as Margula is looking for a chance at Genet, and Genet meanwhile is behind Palacio, who also has damage from that incident, mind you.
Surprised that Palacio is able to be going as fast as he did. He basically got sandwiched into the metal off of the left side. Instead, the fight is much more for second place. Genet, the teammate to David, is just ahead of Margula, as you mentioned. Yoder not close enough to attack here. James David did come into the pits, no surprise there, to take his spare car. I think that Morales maybe is waiting till he's in the pit window. You can see now that we've got the timer up on screen, 36 minutes left to go. This is way too early for him to try and duck it in and only do it on a single stop.
Yeah, that's true, and maybe he's thinking he can brave it out, he can get used to it, but that can so easily go against you. However, it seems that right now he's got his pace just a little bit, and it seems to be at least It's gonna be interesting to watch his lap times, but here we are on board with Margula, who suddenly finds himself in a podium fight, and not only in a podium fight, he finds himself as a shoe-in for the win, because you can see Palacio struggling in the lead a little bit. He's going wide in these corners. Genet looks like he's biding his time, and Pierre is right there in the mix.
Palacio yet to win so far this season. Maybe a little bit of nerves in there, thinking this is his best chance yet. Genet, I'm pretty sure, doesn't have one either, as he follows behind. They come around. Oh, and it's a very poor exit as we ride on board with Margula. He drops a ton of time to return to the pit straight. What about Genet? Is this run good enough? He's about 3/10 back, but he's coming closer. The slipstream's pulling him in. Palacio not really covering him off. Genet gets down to the inside, takes the desired line away. Oh, and almost gets run into from the back with Margula, nearly making contact with Palacio. That would have been a miserable event for him to have a second run in a row down into that corner.
Yeah, but in the end, Genet pulls it off, and Palacio not defending that too much. I think he knew that he had no real chance to fend him off, because you can see how much better Genet is under braking there. He could do it on the inside, he could do it around the outside. Now the question is, how far can Genet get before Margula can pass Palacio, because Palacio's now holding him up well and truly, and you can see once again going very wide with the BMW, which isn't as good on the brakes as the Porsche is anyway, and now the straight line speed is hindered by the damage too.
Watch this fight. I was checking up some stats real quick. Interesting to note that Jean-Marc Tremblay, who unfortunately looks like he has gone backwards, despite being 5th in the points, he's only had one top 5. That's a little bit of a weird set of finishes to be able to manage that. A little bit farther ahead of him, though, we've got Christopher Richards and Brett Barrett. Barrett going the long way around and just not having enough grip, so he loses out behind them. We might see flashes of Simkovic, and another little poke and a prod from Barrett to see if he could shake something out of Richards here.
Yeah, and he's really putting the pressure on, and it looks to be working. Richard is now really, conscious about his braking points. Barrett goes a little bit wide here too, and absolutely ruins his chance onto the main straight. Semkovic goes a little bit wide in sympathy and ruins his chance too. So it was a poke and a prod, and he tried to force Richards to outbrake himself, which worked out, but unfortunately Barrett wasn't able to capitalize on it. And meanwhile, gonna bring you to another point, which is that the fastest man out of the top 10 last lap was Diego Morales. So his damage, despite being severe, isn't enough to keep him away from this battle, so it could work out for him. I was wondering about it, and hands up, I was wrong. He is able to put in competitive lap times.
The commentator that says he just added lightness to the car.
Further ahead, by the way, Kenneth Rodriguez and Ted Lowendick are really close and side by side for P number 2.
Oh, and some contact. Palacio once again gets shoved around. This time off of Seat. He's very slow, and Lowendick's going to be able to close right in on him, bringing Rodriguez with him. We'll go back and look at that replay in a bit as we wait to see if Lowendick's able to do anything now that he has come within striking range. Out of Campsa, doesn't look like he's got the exit he needs. So let's take another look at this. This is Margula and Palacio. They're going to come together here. happens in Seat, so 2 turns up.
Yeah, and it's been a bit of a fight, and I think Palacios gonna miss his breaking point, make a little bit of a bubble here in the previous corner. And Margula, he's been good on the brakes all day long, and he's gonna be good into Seat as well. But look at what happens as he comes into the corner. Palacios gonna leave him the inside, and Margula's gonna take it at the very last second and then just shove him out. That was a very Formula 1 style overtake, where you just don't leave any room to the guy on the outside, and I'm sorry, I'm not a fan of that at all. So it was from Margula, it was a little bit anxious. I think he was given the position more easily than it ended up happening, but nothing Palacio could have done different there, really. And Margula inherits second place, Palacio down to third, Lowendick down to fourth, and Kenny Rodriguez, he's in fifth place. And not only is Kenny in fifth place, he's also seeing a battle for podium out of his windshield, and he's not a lap down.
Yeah, he certainly has got himself in a great position to claim one of his best finishes this season. You know, you can say since we're in Spain that maybe drivers should always leave a space for the outside if they're battling like that. As we hop on board now.
Yeah, and on board Rodriguez, and this is certainly quite a sight he sees, because now we got a couple of surprises in this race. Not only the leaders crashing, but a bit of a messy start for a couple of guys. Palacio with damage. We're seeing whole new names taking it right to the sharp end of the field. And Ted Lowendick, as mentioned, he's in fourth place, had a great start, and a couple of guys crashing behind him as well. And he's a shoe-in for the podium. And if he makes a mistake, we got Kenny Rodriguez as well, inheriting those positions. And as said, Palacio, he's one of the fastest drivers in this field. He's been consistently right behind the championship leaders, right behind David and Morales in terms of pace, but he's got so much damage that he can't just bring that pace to the table right now. So he's holding up the pack. But kudos to Palacio in a sense that he doesn't try to desperately defend. Instead, he's giving them room and letting them make the decision, which, as much as it hurts, and it must hurt the ego of a racing driver, it is also the right call at this point in time.
Front stretch doesn't look like Lowendick is going to catch up to Palacio, and Rodriguez likewise not going to catch up to Lowendick. He talked about damage to a car and recovering. I took a peek at James David. The 89 is up to 16th currently, but again, he pitted so early, I anticipate that he will have to stop one more time. Let's keep the cameras here on this battle for third place. Palacio ahead of Lowendick and ahead of Rodriguez. Good on the brakes, though, for Rodriguez down into Repsol. Just can't quite do much with it.
Yeah, and you can see really the difference between makes there. The Porsche is so much faster on the brakes and so much better in those medium speed corners as well. And the BMW, it just got the legs on him. And especially in a battle like this, Lowendick's got the draft all the time from Palacio, so he gets the benefit of that as well. So you got BMW leading a BMW, and then Rodriguez with the Porsche on the tail end of that battle. And well, he's gonna have to do it into the corner because he can't get a good run on the straight as long as these guys don't make mistakes. So I think it settled down for a little bit, and it's also, this settling down has allowed Palacio to maybe get back to the grips with this car and start to make some decisions in a sense that, okay, when am I going to pit? When is the pit window going to be open? And when can I get that repair to my car? Because I think Palacio, despite being a little bit down on the leaders, once he gets a clean car, he's still within a shout of this race win.
A little bit of an attempt from Rodriguez.
Oh, here he comes.
Oh, yeah, you are correct. Palacio, I have to imagine that he's got quite a bit of damage that he needs to repair. So he is within that pit window at this point, comes down to the lane, gets it down to the limiter, and is just going to shuffle towards his box. Probably going to take that spare car, I would think. Let's see if it pops back into place. It's his marks. Yes, indeed. Brand new car. So he should be able to return and have all the pace available.
Raymond Day as well opting to pit here on the first possible opportunity.
Interestingly, that Morales did not come into pit that time through. In fact, he continues to close in on Rodriguez, has been faster for multiple laps now, and this last one was 4/10 quicker than the 969.
Yeah, they were a little bit hindered by the pace of Palacio in front of them, and meanwhile, Lowendick and Rodriguez briefly side by side out of Seat, but Lowendick holds on, so Lowendick really, he's in a position, and that's not an inviolable position, where his pace is around positions 8, 9, and 10 normally in qualifying, and then he gets all those passes done, has a great early portion of the race, and now he's gonna look like Jarno Trulli, because he's in the mix with guys. Oh, well, I say in the mix with guys he's normally not mixing with. That's Kenny Rodriguez behind him. But Rodriguez is looking really fast, especially into those corners, because I said the Porsche has better brakes. So under some real pressure here for Ted.
I'm surprised at how well Kenny is putting the screws to Ted here. And as we continue to watch the wingless Morales, now we switch on board with the 969. See if he can stay right up beneath him, coming off the chicane. Yes, this is a fantastic exit. Is he too close, though? They come through the final corner. He slows up slightly. Now he's going to get the run that he probably needed. The car will creep forward with the draft of the one ahead. You would think maybe, no, Lowendick fast in a straight line and just continues to pull the whole way down.
Yeah, that's Ted Lowendick, and that's the BMW power for you. No chance there for Rodriguez to get a passing try even. 250 k's an hour for Ted Lowendick there, and just comparing that to Arnaud Genet, our race leader, who had 245 k's an hour. So Ted Lowendick 5 k's an hour faster there on the main straight, and that makes all the difference compared to Rodriguez, even though Rodriguez had the draft here. But Kenny still, he is mighty close into Seat.
I have to imagine that Morales cheering them on to try and tussle with one another. Seat and right on the gearbox of Lowendick, looking back at Kenny Rodriguez's nose. Porsche much tighter down into the apex there through Vert. He still, once again, is stuck behind, not really seeing any doors open, just bobbles happening from the car in front. Now he gets a chance as they speed down towards Lakaija. But he's not as close as he maybe would have wanted, and does not even tuck his nose out.
Can I get my nerd glasses on for a second, Kercho? I'm pretty sure the gearbox... excuse me. I'm pretty sure the gearbox on a BMW is not on the back of the car. Thank you very much.
My dad complains about that too when he hears me say that on air.
Yeah, because I know why you do it, because it's there in the open wheelers. It's there, even with the Porsche, it's right in there, I think. So, you know, it's a little bit of a complaint, and now somebody heard us, you know, listening to the feedback, so they can maybe be silent for a little bit once again. Yeah, Morales is in.
He took off from the back of that group, and he is going to take a slightly early pit stop to try and get that repaired. We didn't miss anything with the two that we were watching. Rodriguez and Lowendick stayed in their order. Brand new car pops into place for Morales, letting his service take place, and now he's on his way. Where is he going to come out? Maybe about 12th place here. Looks like he might get out ahead of Matthews. Yes, indeed. And in fact, he's got relatively clean air in front of him. The 22 does look like he found himself a tidy gap that he can slip into. For those wondering, David's actually only 2 positions behind him. Remember, David's already taken 1 stop, but we think he'll need another. He's up to 14th at this point.
Yeah, and for Morales, he's actually not that far behind Palacio, who's in a battle with Cristelli, and this is for position 11th and 12th. Cars number 009 and 194 there in a bit of a battle, and this is important because Morales is only a couple of seconds behind him, and Cristelli is not letting Palacio through, and why would he? This is a battle for position show, and this is what can happen with the different pit strats sometimes.
Indeed. So Palacio experiencing a little bit of frustration. Say, leave it down into Kamsa. Oh, but he's got an excellent exit, maybe too good. It almost looked like he was going to run into the back of Cristelli's BMW, but he narrowly avoided it. And with a swift move, Julio Palacio gets back into the top 10.
Yeah, and it was almost as if Cristelli was lifting to let him by and only realizing that he lifted too early. That's how great the difference was in the exit of those between those drivers. And meanwhile, further up front, P number 3, they are still in the mix in this battle. Lowendick and Rodriguez, as a couple of guys behind them are pitting. That's Richard and Semkovic. No need to go to it, but those guys coming to the pit lane as well.
Big mistake there by Lowendick down into Elf. Rodriguez finds himself going wide at Renault, and it doesn't seem like it's going to pay dividends. Maybe he was trying to square off the exit of the corner, and instead he's still stuck back there in P4. You're right that we've got a slew of cars now coming in. We're getting towards the latter stages of that pit window. I think maybe just a few more minutes, maybe 5 or more minutes, and then we are at the edge of where drivers can go on that tank of fuel. Staying on the roof of Kenny Rodriguez, continuing to pressurize the 172.
Yeah, he's doing pretty well there so far, and he's still applying the pressure constantly. He's not doing any stupid or hasty moves. We haven't seen those from Kenny really at all. He's being very calm, very consistent, biding his time, knowing that his battle is not with the likes of Genet or Margula here. He's battling with Teddy, and he's biding his time with Teddy. So he's just has to concentrate on that and not mind the fact that Palacio and also Palacio and Morales and those guys are coming very fast, because he can't do anything about that. So he's just waiting, I think, here, and probably being a little bit frustrated, if anything, by the lack of straight line speed. So he knows he has to do it in the corners. But Teddy's doing a very good job of not making any mistakes there, and Rodriguez coming into the pit lane, and absolutely the right call here, because he can then put in a fast out lap and maybe another fast lap and leapfrog him into the between the pit stop.